The earth itself recoiled from my father's crime. I am Enoch, son of Cain, and my legacy is written in the blood of my uncle Abel. The ground that once accepted his offerings now screamed with his murder. My father stood over his brother's body, his hands stained, his soul the first to be poisoned by a guilt no human had ever known. God's voice was not gentle when he came asking, "Where is your brother?" My father's defiant lie, "Am I my brother's keeper?" echoes through our bloodline, a curse we all carry. His punishment was exile, a wanderer on an earth that would no longer yield its strength to him. He cried out that his punishment was too great to bear, terrified that others would seek vengeance. But in a shocking act of mercy, even in judgment, God placed a mark upon him. It was not a brand of shame, but a terrifying, luminous sigil, a divine warning that pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. Anyone who saw it knew this man was under God's protection. Vengeance against him would bring a sevenfold retribution. Thus, my father, the first murderer, became the first to be marked by divine power, a walking paradox of sin and sacred safeguard. We left everything for the land of Nod, a place whose very name means wandering. I was born into this exile, my name, Enoch, meaning dedicated, a desperate hope from a man seeking a new beginning. My mother, a woman from Adam's other children, chose to follow him into this desolation. I was her firstborn, a symbol of their fragile hope in this harsh wilderness. My earliest memories are not of green pastures, but of the relentless sun on cracked earth and the constant shadow of my father's sin that stretched longer than our own. Then, my father did the unthinkable. In direct defiance of God's decree that he would be a fugitive and a vagabond, he decided to stop wandering. He began to build. With relentless determination, he gathered other outcasts and innovators, and he built the world's first city. And he named it after me, Enoch. Every stone laid was an act of rebellion. The walls were not just for protection. They were a shield against divine judgment, a permanent scar upon the earth meant to defy the very curse upon our name. I grew up within those rising walls, the first child of civilization. The air was thick with the sounds of innovation, the ringing of metal as my cousin Tubal-Cain forged weapons from bronze and iron, melodies from Jubal's harp that were both beautiful and haunting. This city was my inheritance, a kingdom of human achievement built by a man God had cursed. I learned leadership and power, but I also felt a deep spiritual emptiness. We had created a world, but we had forgotten the one who created us. From our city, we heard whispers of the other lineage, the descendants of Seth. They lived in simple tents, moving with their flocks, and they began to call upon the name of the Lord. Their lives were a quiet hymn, while ours was a roaring symphony of pride. They spoke of a God who walked in gardens, while we built walls to keep the wilderness out. The divide was more than geographical. It was a chasm in the soul of humanity, and I felt trapped on the wrong side. As I took leadership, the emptiness within me grew into a profound yearning. I would climb the highest tower of our city and stare into the vast, star-dusted sky, feeling a pull I could not explain. I was the leader of the most advanced society on Earth, yet I felt like a stranger in my own skin. The mark on my father was visible. The mark on our family's soul was invisible, but I felt its weight every day. I was hungry for a truth that all our metal and music could not provide. It began with a whisper on the wind, a presence during my solitary vigils. At first, I thought it was my own desperate thoughts, but the voice was too clear, too other. It spoke not to my ears, but directly to my spirit, a single word that ignited something inside me. Remember. Then came the dreams. Vivid, terrifying visions of luminous beings with multiple sets of wings, their eyes like flaming torches, observing our city with a mixture of sorrow and stern judgment. I would wake, my heart pounding, knowing these were not mere dreams. The breakthrough happened during a violent dispute between our metalworkers. As I tried to mediate, the usual solutions failed. In sheer desperation, I did what no one in my family had done for generations. I closed my eyes and prayed, God of my father Adam, if you are there, give me wisdom. Instantly, a shocking clarity descended upon me. It was as if a divine map unfolded in my mind. I knew exactly what to say, and my words flowed with a supernatural authority that silenced the crowd and brought peace. They were in awe. I was terrified. That prayer opened a door I could not close. My spiritual senses, once dormant, were now screamingly awake. I started to see them, the Watchers. At first, they were just shimmering distortions at the edge of my vision, tall, majestic figures standing at the city gates, observing us with an ancient, knowing gaze. They were not fallen, not yet. They were guardians, and their presence was a silent testimony to a connection with the divine that we, in our prideful city, had utterly forsaken. They were watching me, and I knew my life was about to change forever. The angelic encounters intensified, moving from visions to visceral, waking reality. Uriel, a being of incandescent light and terrifying grace, appeared before me. His voice was the sound of mountains shifting. Enoch, son of Cain, you have been chosen as a scribe. Your hand will record what your eyes are permitted to see. My human form trembled uncontrollably in the presence of such pure power. He explained that despite my cursed lineage, my seeking heart had found favor. I was to be a bridge, a mediator between the realm of heaven and the fallen earth. Then Uriel laid his hand upon my forehead, and my spirit was violently torn from my body. I screamed, but no sound came out. The physical world, my city, the land of Nod, shrunk to a tiny, glowing orb below me. I was hurtling through the cosmos, through layers of reality I never knew existed. I saw the foundations of the earth, the great pillars that hold the sky, and the storehouses where God keeps the wind and hail. The scale of creation was so immense, it threatened to shatter my very mind. I was shown the throne room, a place of such overwhelming light and sound that human words fail. Countless beings with forms beyond description worshipped in a symphony that resonated with the fabric of the universe. And, at the center, a brilliance so absolute I could not look directly, yet I felt seen, known to my core. It was both the most terrifying and most comforting moment of my existence. I understood then how small our city walls were, how arrogant our pride in building them. But then the visions turned dark. Uriel showed me the rebellion in heaven, a war of ideals that poisoned the celestial realm. I watched as a being of magnificent light, once called Lucifer, twisted his beauty into pride and fell, dragging a third of the starry host with him. The shock waves of that first disobedience rippled through all creation, a cosmic crack that made my father's sin seem like a mere echo. This was the source of the corruption, the ancient wound. My guide then showed me the specific sin of the Watchers assigned to Earth. I saw their leader, Shemyaza, and 200 of his kind make a conscious, calculated pact to descend. Their desire for human women was a violent, possessive fire. They did not gently court. They took them, imposing their will and their celestial nature upon humanity. The visions were not vague. I saw their faces, heard their names, Azazel, Barakel, Kokabiel, as they each chose a bride, their actions tearing the delicate veil between the spiritual and the physical. The offspring of these unnatural unions were the Nephilim. My visions showed them not as mere tall men, but as monstrous giants. their bones like granite, their appetites insatiable. They were not just large, they were abominations, possessing a hybrid strength and a corrupted intellect from their angelic fathers. I watched them devour entire harvests meant for villages, crush men underfoot for sport, and demand worship as gods. The earth, already crying out from Abel's blood, was now groaning under the weight of these creatures. The forbidden knowledge spread like a plague. Azazel did not just teach metalwork, he demonstrated the art of crafting swords designed for maximum carnage, knives for torture, and armor that made warriors invincible. He taught women the dark arts of seduction and deception, using cosmetics and jewelry, turning beauty into a weapon. Barakel perverted the stars, teaching humans to read their fates in the constellations, enslaving them to fear and fortune-telling instead of trusting in God's providence.